So, the power of storytelling. In introducing my next guest, I haven't seen him in about 8 years now, and so let me tell you how we got here for this morning. I got a call in the office from a friend of mine who works with Nick, and the call was, kind of random out of the blue, and said, "Hey, Ranjit, we see you're back at NCCEP. You remember Nick Cannon?" And I thought, Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon. I remember all those folks when I went out to Gear Up, Oregon. I remember that principal in Maine that I met. But Nick Cannon, yeah, I remember Nick Cannon. I totally remember Nick Cannon. You mean the guy who made 16 Summers for the Gear Up community about 8 years ago that comes with educational curriculum? The guy we took to Capitol Hill that shook probably a billion hands to tell him that Gear Up works 8 years ago? I mean, when we put him in the car at the end of the day, he was exhausted. Exhausted. We worked him so hard for a voice of Gear Up. This guy, you all know him, right? His whole career has really been about shaping a story, and he's done it in so many different sort of venues, from movies, from music. He's on TV. He's written a children's book, if you can believe it. I mean, he's done it in so many different venues. And when I spoke to Nick, I told him a couple of things. I said, "Hey, I love your movie." There was a Youth Leadership Summit participant this morning that said, "I can't wait to see Nick Cannon because he inspired me to be a percussionist in Drumline, from the Drumline movie." And so I told the kid, I said, "Hey, top 3 Nick Cannon movies of all time. Number 1, 16 Summers. Yeah. Number 2 for me is actually Bobby. If you haven't seen Bobby, and the Cannes Film Festival agreed with me, he was awesome in that thing. And then maybe 3, Drumline gets in there, right? So, but when I spoke to Nick, I told him what we were doing. He didn't talk anything about what he's been doing in the last 8 years. He said, "What are you trying to achieve?" And I said, "We're trying to help Gear Up find their voice, to mobilize, amplify their voice. And we think there's something in storytelling, not only about amplifying the voice, but building those skills in kids." And he said, "That's exactly what my foundation is trying to do, my youth foundation, around storytelling, around entrepreneurship, around how do kids build the skills to navigate their own life," which is why we were so excited to have him here. So please join me. This is a busy guy. To get him here is no short chore. In welcoming Nick Cannon. What's up, guys? How you guys doing? Give it up for yourselves. They told me I was going to get an opportunity to come back to DC and talk to Gear Up, and over 1,500 educators are going to be here, hundreds of students. I was like, I'm there. I didn't care what I was doing. I said I needed to be here to talk to the people, and it's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you guys here in this room. Yesterday, I was out peace walking in Cleveland at the RNC, and a lot of people, and we're going to the DNC, we're going all over the country, speaking on unity and peace and, bringing peace in a time like this in our nation and in our world. And a lot of people would ask me, how can we make a difference? What can we actually do? And that question made me say, I definitely had to be here this morning because you guys are the people who make the difference. You guys are the people who make the changes right here in this room. So I'm right where I need to be. How you guys feeling? I thank each and every one of you. I thank Ranjit for being here and allowing me to come back. And the march to 1 million is the mission, right? That's what we're trying to get to. And he told me that we wanted to talk about the power of storytelling. Now, I consider myself a storyteller. We got any storytellers in the building? See, everyone should be clapping because we're all storytellers because we all have a story to tell. Do we have any storytellers in the building? It's a little better. That's a little better. Try to see. Y'all trying to wild out a little bit in here. I'm trying to make sure y'all turned up. For the educators, that means get excited.
So we're going to have some fun. She said she came up here to take a picture of my shoes. Thank you. They're telling a story today, aren't they? I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So since we're talking about the power of storytelling, can I share with you? Can I tell you a story that I wrote before we start this off? Is that all right? Do it like this. It says, once upon an element, a man named Intelligence questioned his own relevance, while his new old friend Wisdom offered his benevolence. Now, you can tell it was evident. At first, they were a little hesitant because their respect and reverence for each other was obviously heaven sent. And that's when Intelligence went, well, why do we hate? Wisdom's rebuttal, well, why do we love? Intelligence wondered what will become of his fate, while Wisdom just embraced each day just because. Now, Intelligence can pontificate how much he knows, but Wisdom shows how much he grows. And though Intelligence spends his time searching for God, Wisdom sees that time is merely a fraud. Odd, they both chose while out on the job to put their pros, cons, and pride aside. Why? Because the power of rival subsides when the powerful rival dies. Intelligence crew was like, ooh, right. While Wisdom's entourage just sighed, oh my. So as y'all body it as you ride or die, because Wisdom knew only the true tried to survive. Intelligence replied, brother, you ain't never lied. But it's something about these guys. They cannot ever sever ties. Alone they can marvel, but together they mesmerize. Metamorphosis, more opposites incorporated and attracted than they actually realize. Differences. For instance, intelligence is man-made, while wisdom is a spirit. Intelligence is loud, but the sound of wisdom must be silent to hear it. Intelligence is witty and quick, while wisdom is peaceful and still. Intelligence can be artificial when wisdom is real. Day and night, back and forth, they can debate turn for turn. But if you understand one without the other, further quandaries will forever burn. So for now, this intelligence case is closed, and this wise meeting of the minds is adjourned. While the blind has been leading the blind with frivolous concerns, we find that the true third eye lies intertwined between two universes and no return. So in turn, these two terms will eternally be on good terms. In terms of the intern, the definitions have definitely and definitively been turned. Intelligence, the ability to learn. Wisdom, the ability to discern. Gear up. It's your turn. Now, for me, the moral to that story is pretty easy. You know what I mean? There's always two sides to the coin. There's always two arguments. There's always this white or black, Republican, Democrat, fly, not so fly, young, old. But when we can bring those sides together and tell both sides of the story, we allow these stories to flourish and we allow each other to grow. So it's not about what's right and what's wrong or about who's right. It's about what we do with that right and how we can walk forward and how we can bring it on together. And that's why I'm here today, because we all have a story. It may not be the best story, it may not be the most compelling story, but we all got a story. And as educators and people who have so much influence, spend so much time with each other, as the young people in this room or the scholars and leaders of tomorrow, we need your story. I was always told that that's all we got is our stories once we leave here. It's what we tell. So in order to take that and do something with it, I feel like in this time in the world, it's really time to step up and take control of the narrative. And that's ultimately what I want to talk to you guys about today, is ways to take control of the narrative. Because obviously we have to recondition the mindsets of what's going on in our homes, our communities, our nation, and our world. We got to understand the value of life, what it means, that we're in a room full of kings living together as brothers or perishing as fools, eye for an eye, leaving everyone blind. We all heard these terms, but we haven't really embraced it and walked in it. So I feel it has to start with the story. It has to start with one another. And it's interesting because I like to not necessarily use cue cards or PowerPoints, because, I take that what is it, that extemporaneous? Is that the word? That means I just make stuff up. But at a young age, it was told to me that that's a skill set. A lot of these politicians know how to do that pretty well. But it's called improv. And I consider myself a student of improv. I've created an improv television show that has over 100 episodes and been around for 10 years called Wildin' Out on MTV. But interestingly enough, that's not where it started in the world of improv for me. It started where, I had the opportunity at a very young age to fall in love with this culture called hip hop. Yeah. And my dad, who's here today, where's he at? He's somewhere in here. He's a preacher man. You'll see him. He looks like one. Got his hair slicked back, nice suit on. He's somewhere back here taking pictures. My father, generation before me, obviously, wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of hip hop because we was all about church. Wasn't no rapping in church. Better be rapping about Jesus. But my father saw that I loved this culture dearly, and he saw that I had something inside of me, something special inside of me when it came to this gift of hip hop. And from age 7, 8, on to almost my teenage years, my father would challenge me, even though I wasn't allowed to listen to certain type of rap music, even though I would sneak and do it anyway. He would say, if you're going to rap, well, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're going to have to do it right there on point whenever I ask you to do it, whether we at church, whether we at the family reunion, the barbecue, the grocery store, he would do it and make me have to improv right on the spot, make it happen. And I'm trying to see, that was a while ago. I'm trying to see if I still got it, but we would do stuff like this. We needed a little help from the audience members right there. I would say, I'm going to need 5 words. Anyway, give me a word.
Love.
Love. It's one word. Another word. Inspiration. Success. Jesus. And food. Oh, y'all gonna make this hard. Is it love, inspiration, success, Jesus, and food? All right, here we go. That's off the top. Off the top, like I say, I'm coming from above, so I got to spit these gifts because it was brought to you with love. I ain't going to be player hating and taking nothing like a PlayStation, but I'm going to give it to you with this game. It's called inspiration. Now, I'm going to let you know those are bars off the top of the dome. Threw a word in for you because I know you was watching at home. And by any means, I want to take up your time because I don't mean to be rude, because I hear some forks and knives clinking because y'all still eating y'all food. But I'm about to give you some spiritual food because I can tell y'all need this. Don't call me a savior because I darn sure ain't Jesus. Coming off the top, I think I forgot a word, didn't I? Y'all screaming it out, and I appreciate it. Y'all should be blessed because after I finish talking, hopefully we can all enjoy this success. Still got it. And that in itself is a way of storytelling. And I feel like it's one of those things that, I was blessed with a pretty good memory and get out there. But I think it's something that's all inside. It's what we retain over the years. I was just on the way here talking with a few friends of mine just about the type of stuff we retain. And man, it's over the years, you learn and remember things that you didn't even know you had in your memory. Stories that you forgot about. Things that you share with your students and others around you that we just totally just disregard that is even in our memory bank. Things that in limericks and songs and poems that it's part of it. Like join along if you guys know any of the things I'm talking about. Just sit right back and you hear a tale of a faithful trip. Started from this. The kids are like, what are you guys singing? It's like, I just remember at some point I was like, the minnow would be lost. And it was like, the end's like, Gilligan, the skipper too, the millionaire, and Tyrone. I was like, wonder why there were no black people on Gilligan's Island. But that's just stuff that's just in our memory bank. That sometimes is substance, doesn't have substance. Sometimes leads us. Those are things that we take along with us. Now, this is how, like, what? She's like, I'm about to turn up. What was you about to say? Fresh Prince. Everybody knows, right? Come say along with me. 1, 2, here we go. Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside. And I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there and tell you how I became the prince of a town called, wow. Even the old folks knew that. Y'all want to keep going? In West Philadelphia, on the playground is where I spent maxing, relaxing all, and all shooting some outside of the school when a couple of guys, they were up to no good, started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight. My mom got scared and said, you're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's in our memory bank. Now, interestingly enough for me, I know it seems like it was all special for all of us, but that song was extremely special for me. For many reasons. One, I was the biggest Fresh Prince fan ever. My first cassette that I ever purchased was DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. I was 8 years old, and he was doing something positive. You know, he was a rapper that was talking about living in the suburbs. I didn't live in the suburbs, but it sounded nice. But he came from a positive angle, you know, and that was a cassette that I could get past my father. It wasn't the NWAs and the Ice Cubes. It was like, hey, this guy's nice, he's friendly. And so I started, you know, I would watch the Fresh Prince of Bel Air on TV. I would model myself, like, man, I could do that. I could dress like that. I want my Jordans like he got. I wanted to be funny and charismatic with the ladies like he was. And early on, I would do little things. I could only watch a certain amount of television when I was a kid. So it was either, you know, right before bed, try to watch Fresh Prince on Mondays, or stay up late and wait for my dad to go to work and watch Arsenio Hall. But she said, whoo, whoo, whoo. But those are the things that inspired me as a young man. And my dad saw that not only did I have a love for hip hop, but I also had a love for comedy. And he saw that I loved all of these things, but he wasn't an advocate of television. So he said, what I'm going to do, instead of letting you watch these shows, I'm going to show you how to make these shows. Instead of watching TV, I'm going to allow you to produce TV. And he was in the world of public access and had his own televangelist ministry show, and I had the opportunity to go into the studio and learn all of these skill sets at like the age of 11, I had the opportunity to take workshops and learn. And because I didn't love to learn, but at the time it was something I was so interested in, I didn't even know I was learning. I was embracing it. I was learning how to make television, and I really didn't care what was on television at the time because I had the opportunity to express my own voice. And I learned all of these different skill sets. And, my dad said, "You're pretty funny, and, you like to ask questions." So I heard Arsenio Hall had to ask 100 questions for all of his interviews. So I want you to sit down at this typewriter and type out 100 questions. I did it because it encouraged me to do what I wanted to do. And then he told me that he, considered I was funny. So instead of doing other people's material, he wanted me to do my own material. And so he said, "You got to sit down here and write out your entire material." And since the only place I was performing the material was church, I had to write Jesus jokes. Sometimes that didn't go over too well. But it had I had the opportunity to get in front of an audience and many audiences, and it cultivated that. And still having that love for things like the Fresh Prince and having the opportunity to just even not necessarily be in Hollywood, but watch from afar. And interestingly enough, I had the opportunity to build my stand-up up all through my teenage years while still in high school. And by the time I was about 16 years old, I actually believe it might have even been on my 16th birthday, I got the opportunity to meet Will Smith. He saw me do stand-up comedy, heard about me, came to the show, and told me that I reminded him so much of himself. I was like, "Man, I've been saying that for years." And right there, he gave me my first record deal, gave me my first television deal. I wish you guys would have seen the TV show we made, but it never came out. Probably because I wasn't a good actor at 16. But it was a great idea. I had a lot of fun. It was kind of like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And it's what they call, it's a television pilot. They make pilots before you see them as series to kind of test the water to see if it works, because clearly this one didn't. But it was a great idea. It was similar to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but instead of a young man moving to Bel-Air, mine was about a young man who moved to a military school. It was called Loose Cannon. It was a good idea. I watched that show to this day. They didn't know what they had. But I had the opportunity to build with Will and so many other people in the industry, and I found that we all had similar stories of having this energy and being able to speak to people and wanting to share the light and, express our voice in a unique fashion. So we continued to build so many things, and opportunities came my way. Like I said, I was only 16 at that time. But other doors began to open up for me. Those are the things that I feel like I would love to share with you, just to show you as someone who was just a normal kid, Southeast San Diego. Yeah. There it is. That's what I'm talking about. Go Padres. One day, hopefully. But to be able to share all the dreams and ideas that I had as a kid that sometimes were shunned and looked down and said, "Oh, that kid, he's hyperactive." Or I said I was one of those kids early on. They diagnosed me with ADD in second grade. Yeah, I had it before it was cool. Yeah, I had ADHD, the high-def version. Couldn't stop me. Some of you educators know what I'm talking about. The young kids, they come in after recess, after lunch, whipping and nay-naying all through the class. That was me. Got to send them to the nurse's office to relax. I was definitely that kid, but interestingly enough, through my parents and the tutelage of everyone from my grandparents and stuff, I remember they were in that second grade. They were saying I was bad, I was hyperactive, and They didn't know what to do with all of the energy. And, the idea came up. It was like, should we medicate them? Give them some Ritalin or all those type of things. But my family wouldn't allow that. He said, there's nothing wrong with him. He's not bad. They said all he had to do was just direct that energy. That was, I harness that energy still to this day. That keeps me moving and grooving. City after city allows me to come up with so many ideas. So that same energy that I had in the second grade, where people are saying, oh, he's bad. He's seeking attention-seeking behavior. Guess what? Attention-seeking behavior. Right now. And interestingly enough, it was cool because during that time where they were saying, he's doing things in class, he's not paying attention, he's trying to take over the class, he's talking too much, all of these different things, I'm telling you, you've wrote it on the progress reports. My grandmother made a point at that time. She said, so channel his energy. Make sure that he's not bored. Make sure he is focused. And at the time, it was really cool. I got put into the GATE program, if you guys remember that, the Gifted and Talented Education magnet school called Kennedy Elementary in Southeast San Diego. And the coolest thing was, because of our population and the way they wanted to guide my energy, is for the first 3 years, they put me in bilingual classes. And it was so cool because I was able to learn Spanish and I flourished in it. I was doing raps and everything. Te Perú, yo me llamo Nicolás, ¿cómo te llamas tú? Lo siento. And I loved it. I embraced it. And it was another way for me to get out there and tell my story and share it with others and grow and flourish. And it was interesting because at that school, even though it was a magnet program, it was in this, right across the street from our government housing that I would walk back and forth to every day. But then later on in my elementary school and even junior high, I had the opportunity to go to a school in a different neighborhood, in the suburbs, like Will Smith. But it definitely wasn't Bel Air. But it was a cool opportunity to see two different worlds, because the world that I had came in, normally I was excelling after I got past all the ADD stuff. I was doing great in school, and straight A's, progress reports were on top all the way to about the 4th grade. And then when I moved, and honestly, I was the only black kid in my class in the suburbs. Went to Avocado Elementary. That's a white school. Avocado? But it was great. I loved every aspect of it. But there was things there at Avocado that I didn't even know. I thought I was doing so many cool things and excelling at Kennedy, but then once I got to Avocado, they had stuff like book clubs. What? It's clubs where kids actually want to read? And they enjoyed it. They had all type of books. They had like 4th grade, they had Huck Finn and Dollhouse Murders, and it was stuff that I just didn't know. At that age, I hadn't sat down and read a whole book for myself yet. I just would read when the teachers would make me read. And I found it interesting. So once I got there, I can't lie, I was a little bit behind because my reading level wasn't the same. My mathematics level wasn't the same, because I felt like, for whatever reason, in the inner city when I was at the school, they didn't challenge me in that way. There was other things that we had to worry about. We were too busy fighting for free lunch and school supplies, where at Avocado, all of that stuff was there in an abundance. So early on, I got to see, all right, well, I'm going to have to push a little harder. I'm going to have to work a little harder to be able to express my narrative, to be able to get my voice out there so I can be on the same level and excel with everyone else. So I got to the point where by the time I was in high school, I was taking AP English, failed it. Got the class, but hey, I'm not gonna lie. They were operating on a certain level, and I will never forget that teacher's name, because he gave me an F. We used to call him Mr. F. But his name was actually Mr. Fay. And Mr. Fay actually, because everyone else was always, I didn't have the same, I don't want to call it, my attention span wasn't there like everyone else was. This is high school. All I'm thinking about is girls. Girls and shoes. My same problem today. So Mr. Fay said that, honestly, I needed to apply myself. He didn't feel like I was working hard enough. He said, sensed that there was talent there, but he just was like, yo, you're not at the same level as the rest of the students. He said it as nicely as possible, but that stuck with me. But luckily, by the time the next year came around, I took a creative writing class, and I had a teacher by the name of Mrs. Pyle. Now, as you guys all know as educators in this room, it only takes one teacher to make a student great. One teacher. One teacher that actually cares and actually connects. Mrs. Pyle cared. She saw that I loved hip hop. She saw that I could write. She saw the improv skill in me. And she said, let's keep feeding that. Keep writing. Keep doing it. Don't stop. Believe in your dream. Even times by the time, I got to the 11th grade, because I took a class 2 years in a row. I loved it so much. That she would allow me to do all of my writing assignments when I was on the road trying to do stand-up comedy and do my music and everything. And interestingly enough, that love for writing just started to flourish and grow. And I found that everything that I do, at the core of it was just writing, was creating. Whether it was I was writing scripts, writing jokes, writing songs, writing poems. It was all, I was a writer. And she found the writer in me. So where Mr. Fay, when I was 15 in the 9th grade, said that I wasn't on the same level as all the other writers. By the time before I graduated high school, 2 years later, I was the youngest staff writer in television history at 17 years old. Because somebody birthed that inside of me. And at 17, I was able to tell stories. And that's what I've been doing for my entire life, telling stories. And being that we all have it inside of us. We all have stories. We all have that ability. And at 17, I was writing for shows that you guys may have heard of before, or heard about. All That on Nickelodeon. I was a staff writer. Keenan and Kel, Cousin Skeeter, The Amanda Show. I didn't get to write for that one, but that's a good show too. But to be able to do that, and I remember before anybody had ever seen me on television, I was working behind the scenes. I was the audience warm-up. I was entertaining the people at the shows. I was writing all of the shows. And by the time I was 19, I was executive producing and starring in my own show on Nickelodeon called The Nick Cannon Show. And I remember, you ain't got to clap for that. But I remember, one thing you can clap for is that I always looked up, and it wasn't enough. I was like, you know what? Being a staff writer is cool. But one day I want to run this country. Not the country, sorry. I don't want that job. It's a tough job. I said, one day I want to run this company. And at 17, I had that vision. I said, I love everything that's going on. And 10 years later, maybe 11 years later, at 28, I once again had another accomplishment of being the youngest television chairman in chairman television history, I guess. I was a Teen Nick and Nickelodeon chairman at 28 years old. So I feel it's teachers that inspired me, from Mr. Fay trying to push me to Mrs. Pyle believing in me. All of those things actually helped me and help my narrative today. So when I talk to young people, or I talk to educators, or I talk to community leaders, I really just have one message, and it's inspiration. And it's taking that inspiration and allowing it to take back our narrative, to control our narrative, to understand the value of everyone in this room, and to be able to step out and share your voice, to be able to say things. And that's why, to me, Gear Up and NCCEP and everything that you guys do is so important, because you're preparing tomorrow's leaders. You're preparing tomorrow's writers. You're preparing tomorrow's executives and lawyers and doctors. And I understand being an educator is a thankless job, But you guys are going to have lots of wings in heaven, I promise. Halos, all of that good stuff. Because to show that you actually care when you don't have to, it meant so much to me coming up. And I know it means so much to all of these young people right here in this room, right? Right? It has to. Because we wouldn't be here without you. And that's why, we talk, Rand just said it a little bit earlier, and even the things that we're trying to do. And it's more than just getting up here and giving a keynote. Said I wanted to put my money where my mouth is. I wanted to put my efforts where my mouth is. So with our foundation, I wanted to give opportunities to young people in the same way that I was. So through the media, we're motivating young people. My father and I have dreams to have motivational institutes in every city. But right now we're starting with our community. And we're starting right here, speaking to you guys, being able to share this message through media. So whether we're creating radio podcasts, because, I've had radio shows all throughout my career and done morning radio and afternoon radio, still making records. I got to go to the radio station tonight here in D.C. But the power of radio is expressing young people's voice, giving young people the opportunity to express themselves through film and television, giving them the proper equipment, teaching them the proper curriculum on how these things work. You never, on my Twitter, my Instagram, everybody's like, I got a demo, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, there's a way to go about it. And if you really love it, you really want it, you really express that voice, we want to help those young people do that. And through that, also, we want to put microphones and cameras and all the essential tools in these young people's hands who want to be able to express their voice so we can take back that narrative. And then, because that's what I said, it's in our communities, it's a lot of frustration. It's a lot of pain, as you guys know. And I often say, hurt people. So we have to stop that vicious cycle of hurt. And it starts with us showing that we care. And it starts with us empowering these young people. When they say, you want to shoot something? Put down the gun and pick up a camera. And last week I was doing a peace walk with a great friend of mine named Fowler Flager in the south side of Chicago. And we were marching peacefully through the hood, telling everybody that peace is what matters, that we have to take back our neighborhoods. I didn't get that much media coverage on that, though, interestingly enough. Got a lot of media coverage on Black Lives Matter, yesterday when I was at the RNC and all those things. But when we step up and show that we care about our own and our own communities, I don't really want to cover that much. But it doesn't matter because we're controlling the narrative. And we're going to tell the story that we care about each other, right? Because that's all that matters, is if we share those stories and we tell those stories. So I take it and I see a lot of young people in here. Kind of reminded me of myself. I see, young man right here with the hoodie, the fresh fade, young boy. Yeah, I see you. Smile with the dimples. Ladies gonna be on them in a couple years. Young guys right here. I was that dude too, sit real cool, biting my nails, trying to stay awake. But all it took was one person to acknowledge that I understood, or that they understood what I was going through, that could communicate with me on my level. Because that's all we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who can really actually say, I understand, I get it. I went through the same things that you guys went through. And as now I have my own children, I can see, they think they know way more than I do. I got 5-year-old twins that are just geniuses in their mind. But I believe them. And I got to listen to them because they're sharing things with me. I mean, I don't know what Minecraft is or why Pokemons need to be found, but my kids, they are showing me. But it's just that connection. It's just being able to share those stories with one another and take back that narrative. And you guys are already doing it. And it's funny, or we talk about how we need to implement change and what are the solutions. Well, we're solution-oriented. And I feel like a room like this, me being here today is way more important than any peace walk that I could ever do. Because you guys matter. That's really what it is. So I'll leave you with this in parting, going back. Maybe some of you guys will know this, and maybe some of you won't. True hip-hop fans in here will definitely know it. But when they told me that I was speaking on the power of storytelling, it reminded me of one of the greatest storytellers in hip-hop. Andre 3000 is a good one, not him, no. That actually is one of my favorites. Well, let's hear I hear Andre 3000. Who else? Who's your favorite? Biggie, Tupac. But I heard the right answer somewhere. Who said it? Slick Rick. The kids are like, who in the hell is that? Slick Rick, the art of storytelling. The greatest storyteller in hip-hop, as they call him. And really one of my favorite rappers, and somebody I had the opportunity to hang out with on many occasions. But it's funny because I feel like not only was he a popular rapper in the 80s and the 90s, but his message truly shows that he was one of the greatest storytellers because it still resonates today. And one of his most popular songs, and I'm not going to do the whole song for you, but you guys will probably know it, but it was called Children's Story. You heard that? If you don't know, I'll give you a little more hip-hop history right here. I know everybody knows the song, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. Well, they sampled Slick Rick's Children's Story to get that record. And it's interesting when you think about the record, he told a story about a young guy like you, young guy like you, young guy like me. And it was interesting because at the time, the story seemed kind of comical, but it's more prevalent and real today than ever in this song called Children's Story. He said, once upon a time, not long ago. You know the words? What it? Wait, hold on, slow down, Nicki Minaj. She wouldn't. What was it? Once upon a time, not long ago. Hold it, you got to stop on that line. Once upon a time, not long ago, when people wore pajamas and lived life slow. Who still wear pajamas? So we ain't that far off. But it's just interesting when you say, once upon a time not long ago, where people wore pajamas and lived life slow, where laws were stern and justice stood, and people were behaving like they're all too good. But there lived a little boy who was misled by another little boy, and this is what he said. Yo, me and you, Rob, we gonna make some cash. Robbing old folks and making a dash. They did the job. Money came with ease. One couldn't stop. It's like he had a disease. He robbed another, and a sister and a brother. Tried to rob a man who was a DT undercover. The cop grabbed the gun and started acting erratic. He said, keep still, boy, no need for static. Punched him in his belly, and he gave him a slap. But little did he know the little boy was strapped. The kid put out a gun and said, why'd you hit me? The cop's head barreled straight for the cop's kidney. The cop got scared, and the kid, he started to figure, I'll do years if I pull this trigger. So he cold dashed and ran around the block. Cop radios in for another lady cop. And as the story goes on, he gets to the point where he says, there's no hope. He knew he was wrong. Siren sounded, scene was gone. Before long, so went his glory. And this is the way we got to end this story. He was only 17 with a young man's dream. The cop shot the kid. We still hear him scream. This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh, because it's just another case about the wrong path. But I'm here to tell you today that that doesn't have to be the case, because through the power of our storytelling, we can take these young people, these young boys like him and me, on the right path, right? We can go on the right path and march to 1 million. So I leave you with this. You can take his story, and turn it into his story. So say it with me. Let's take his story and make his story. Let's take her story and make history. Let's take our story and make history. Thank you guys so much for your time. God bless. Thank you. Sit down.
Stay up for a second. Just stay with me. I'm gonna close this out really quickly. I want Nick to know that I was listening, so I'm gonna close it out with 5 words. Give me 5 words. Forget about it.
I was about to say, go in.
Yeah. No, I'm not doing that. But I am gonna close it out with this, 8 years ago, I met Nick. We talked on the phone, and so I know what his schedule is. Believe me, I've been checking it by the minute. For him to be here was not easy. For him to be here and do that, I want to close it out with one thing, and I want you all to get in that photo storytelling booth in the exhibit hall. 5 words, you pick one. But for him to be here, I want to close it out in honor of the San Diego Padres, because that was a home run. And Nick, for this program, for all of you, man, he is a home run. Can we hear it from Mr. Nick Cannon?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And honestly, the passion is real. I mean, I'm so about the community. I'm so solution-oriented. I would love to have the opportunity to come and talk to all of your young people. So let's figure out a way to do it. We're going to make it happen because I'm in your community. Woo!
Annetta, James Cannon, you heard that? Clear his schedule. Have a great morning. See you back here at lunch. Thank you.